Hey everybody, welcome to the American English Accent Club. Remember I said I was going to do a video for you about the differences and traditions of Christmas in the United States, at least what I'm familiar with on the East Coast, and also compare it with some things in Canada, since I live in Canada now. All right, so if you see, I have a couple of decorations around me. Decorations are big this time of year. People will bring out all sorts of lighted trees and strings of lights, and they'll put wreaths on their doors or in their windows. This is mine. I'm going to actually hang it up. After I get off this video, I think I'm going to put it on my door. So that's one thing that I have handy. Some people will collect certain types of ornaments. Like I have a lot of these. I have a lot of nutcrackers, so when I unpack them all, they're all over my house. Anyway, so when it comes to decorating and the holiday feeling, it gets to be, it's kind of exciting when we can feel that it's getting close. The weather starts to cool down. Thanksgiving in the States is usually the third Thursday in November. And years ago, it used to be you really didn't see a lot of Christmas decorations before that. Now, with a lot of consumerism, meaning we're always pushing to sell and buy things and move the economy forward, you'll see stuff coming out even before that now. So what you'll start to see is people start to decorate their houses. They'll put lights on the outside. They'll put wreaths on their doors or in the windows. They'll actually put lights on their shrubbery, the trees and plants in their gardens or in their front yards. So that starts an interesting comparison to Canada. Canadian Thanksgiving, we do celebrate Thanksgiving in Canada, but in October, around October 10th usually. And people will start to decorate their houses earlier because of that. I think it's a little bit earlier. The harvest comes in Canada because it gets a little colder, a little bit quicker. So people will also start to decorate because it's not so pleasant to be climbing up on your roof to put the lights on the house when it gets to be really cold. So not only is it unpleasant, but it's dangerous. If ice and snow come, you don't want to be climbing up onto your roof. Okay, so let's get to the actual holiday. Once the decorations are up, people will typically if they are celebrating, there's Christmas, there's Hanukkah also that is very common, and Kwanzaa are also holidays that all come at the season. So a lot of people will say happy holidays, or I hope you have a nice holiday season, or have good holidays, hope your holidays are good. That's what they'll say. Hope you have a good Christmas, or hope you have a good holiday, because a lot of different people are celebrating different events that are also usually faith-based. Okay, so we talked about decorating a little bit, which is one of the fun parts. But let's talk about the actual day, Christmas Day. What typically happens is we get to actually the eve before, it's Christmas Eve, the night before. And a lot of families will get together, and this is very cultural. Some cultures, they don't really make much out of Christmas Eve, whereas other ones, it's a big deal where family will get together. I grew up in an Italian family, so Christmas Eve was a big deal for us. My family would all get together, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, sometimes as many as about 20 of us. And the food that we would eat, usually on Christmas Eve, a lot of people would have fish. So they'll have seafood. So we would have, shrimp and clams and calamari or squid. Sometimes I think my aunt used to like an octopus salad called pulpo. Well, I didn't know like that. I don't think I even ever tasted it. But there are lots of different, so that's kind of the Italian American tradition that you might hear about. And there's always an antipasta, which would be like a charcuterie, salamis and cheeses and olives and nice good bread and things like that. That would come before as an appetizer, and then there would be some pasta. So there would usually be a lasagna, and then after that would be that would be the pasta with some fish sauces, pasta con sarde, or that's pasta with sardine sauce. Tastes way better than it sounds. And then we would have some meat, so pork roast or some other with a whole bunch of sides. But that's an Italian Christmas Eve, an American Italian Christmas Eve. not necessarily the same as what other cultures would do in the States. And there's so much variety across the States. So you'll hear a lot of different things that people will do. We would also go to a service. We'd go to a church service, Christmas Eve. Sometimes they would have a candlelight service. And that would usually be very late, sometimes like at midnight. And then other people, so not everyone would do something like that. It depends on their faith. For me and my family, it was important. Christmas is an important holiday for us, for the reasons of it, what it means. Okay, so going on to Christmas Day, I think you would also find a lot of the same stuff in the Christmas Eve in Canada that you would find in at least the eastern side of the States. So Christmas morning, Christmas Eve was always like, the kids would go to bed and they would be excited because the next day, Santa was supposed to come overnight. Santa would come and would bring them presents and leave them under the tree. I really didn't talk about the whole decoration part, is that we would go and get a Christmas tree. Some people will use a fake tree, and others will go and get a real tree. Sometimes you can just go buy it at a store, even sometimes a grocery store or a hardware store, or a pop-up. They call it a pop-up shop where you see on a corner, there will be somebody selling trees in a fenced-out area. That's you'll see that happen a lot. And then once you have a tree up, the idea is that the presents that you wrap for your family and your friends, so you put them under the tree. So sometimes if it's a very good year, you'll have lots and lots of presents under the tree, and the kids will be very excited about Christmas Eve, going to sleep knowing that Santa is going to come overnight and will bring them presents. So in the morning, in a lot of families, children will get up and they're up really early because they can't wait to see what they're all excited about. What do they get? What did Santa bring them? And they'll be unwrapping presents. Now in my family, we were very impatient, so we would wait till midnight and we would ask our parents to open up the presents that they gave us. So we would do that. We'd open them early, but then we would often have something from Santa the next morning. So that was what we used to do. Then after you'd have your Christmas morning, a lot of times you would go to another family. Your family would get together again. So you would have dinner all over again. And for most families, the most traditional food would be to have a turkey with a lot of side dishes. So could be different kinds of vegetable dishes and stuffing or dressing for the turkey. They might have mashed potatoes and candied potatoes and maybe peas and onions that are roasted in the oven, maybe some squash dishes. That's a cultural thing. Those kinds of sides will depend on what was popular in your family or what your culture might deem as important foods or part of that whole festive event. And then after Christmas Day, after everyone eats, pretty well hang around together, and that's really, you have that family time together. Some people will play games. Maybe do some board games at the table, or just kind of hang out and enjoy each other's company. And in Canada, the difference between, Christmas and there and in the States and in Canada is that Canada, actually, it's not the end of the celebration in terms of the next day being what they call Boxing Day. Now, Boxing Day is a British thing. They celebrate Boxing Day in Britain and also in Canada. So there are a lot of influences from Britain in Canada that still remain. So it's interesting to see the little differences like that. So like on Christmas Day, they'll have Christmas crackers, which is like a little tube. I should have tried to see if I had one from last year. It's a little tube that's wrapped. It's wrapped like a present, and it's got inside. It's got little prize and a little paper crown and a little joke, and people at the table, everyone would have one, and you would go to the person beside you or across the table, and each would pull an end, and it makes a little snap pop. There's a little pop, and inside it there's these little prizes. It's just something to kind of play around with. It's kind of fun to see what you're going to get. It's a little surprise, and it's as usual a little joke, and you'll share that at the table, and that's kind of fun. But that's definitely a British thing that you see in Canada that you don't see in the States. When I would go down now and visit my family in the States, I would bring Christmas crackers because that was a new thing for them, and that was kind of fun for me to introduce to my family because that was not something that we ever knew about or did. Okay, so that's it. So Christmas is kind of over once it's in the U.S. Christmas Day is that's it, and then in Canada they do have Boxing Day, where they'll also will visit other parts of their family that they couldn't get to or friends that they hadn't seen. But those the one other thing about Canada, I was talking to my husband about it. He said that it's a common thing too to kind of do some sort of activity, even on Christmas Day. So maybe in the afternoon after you've eaten, if you've eaten kind of early, you'll have like a big afternoon feast or early evening feast, or maybe before it. People might go off for a skate, an ice skate, maybe on a pond that may be close to the house, or maybe an outdoor rink, an ice rink. That's a little slab of ice that somebody will make with. If people make them even in their backyards, in some areas, it's a labor of love to have your own rink in the backyard because it takes a lot of time and a lot of water to keep flooding the rink and keeping the ice smooth because it needs to be smooth, otherwise you can't skate on it. You can't skate on uneven, bumpy ice. You'll fall and you'll hurt yourself, and it's just no fun. But that's a Canadian thing, a little Canadiana, we would say. It would be go for a skate or maybe play some pond hockey or something like that if you're going to do that. I know in Ottawa there's a big canal called the Rideau Canal, and it freezes over because it does get colder in Ottawa. And the whole canal is open to skate. They kind of clear off the snow because if you have a rink, you do have to actually shovel it or get the snow off of it because you can't skate on ice that has snow on top of it. But they'll actually plow the canal and people can skate all the way down on a big long run, which is pretty neat. If you like to skate, it's neat to have a big long run in front of you, the length and width of a huge canal to just go and skate. Anyway, so that's about it. I'm thinking if there are any other major things I didn't think of, but anyway, I just want you to hear some running English speech, some conversation. I hope it's not too fast. And just to tell you some of the things that we enjoy this time of year. And I think, little twinkling lights and the decorations and things like that are really important because they lift your spirits a little bit. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't love the cold weather. And I also don't love when it starts getting dark early in the afternoon. Like in the afternoon, it gets dark about 5 o'clock. Maybe even a little bit before, like 4:45 on the shortest days. It could be dusk. Dusk is when it starts to get dark. And the sun starts to set. And it can be a bummer when the nights are so long. But when you have twinkling lights, little lights, and you have decorations around, it really does kind of change the feeling of it. And it actually looks very pretty and kind of makes you feel a little better. And it's exciting to look forward to Christmas if that's a celebratory holiday for you. So I think that's it. I think I talked too long. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope it's fun. And I hope that you get a chance to hear some more of that English, just how an American English speaker speaks. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Like I said before, invite your friends. Let everybody know that I'm doing this kind of work and we're growing this community, and we just love to be a part of it, and I would love to be able to help you with your English pronunciation, your American English pronunciation. That's it. Take care. Merry Christmas.